your job now is to consciously read through this. You cannot allow that. You cannot allow yourself to get pulled into constantly questioning your own perception. You need to take charge of it, and you need to move into self-mastery. Those are the only ways how you can get through this, guys. Everything else is checking out. And when you check out, you go on autopilot. And when you go on autopilot, that means you can be remote controlled. As simple as that. You will notice that there were some people that are already here because we just finished with a 15-minute energy prayer session that I now do twice a week, Wednesdays and Fridays at 11:30 a.m. Yeah, so these energies right now, guys, are extremely confusing, and there is a lot of triggers that are being pulled here in us right now. It doesn't matter where you stand with some of these practical issues of these transformations that are going on right now, whether it's in your job, in your relationship, in maybe in regards to your home. Yeah, there's a lot that is happening everywhere in our world right now, and more times than not, or more often than already. The solution for some of our issues is in letting go. But I do need to explain this a little bit, because letting go does not mean to shove it away, to avoid it, or to ignore that it's going on. Letting go is in recognizing what is truly going on here and what truly needs to be addressed. And there is something that is inherent in all of us humans, and that has to do with being confronted with the unknown. The huge big challenge here in these last months of 2021 is that there is so much uncertainty that literally every value in our life needs to be reassessed. Everything is changing, whether it's the real estate market, the workforce market, the stock market, the currency market, the relationship market, yes, or, just simply the way we feel about ourselves in these intense times that are going on. And if you feel that the primary sensation, emotion, and view that is forming in you right now is fear or anxiousness, then understand that that is what these energetic weather conditions are right now. Because every single time, and it doesn't actually matter what the content of that is, every single time something changes, our ego gets pulled into the fear of the unknown. And there is a lot of teachings out here, a lot of spiritual teachings, but even psychological teachings that allow us to understand why the unknown has a sort of detrimental effect on our psyche, because there are things in our human nature, such as our mortality, for example, that we cannot overcome with, say, knowledge. It doesn't matter how much we learn about the human body, how much we learn about nature, how much we learn about this or that, the material, the matter side of life. There is this one problem, this one equation that we can never solve, and that is the fact that we're going to die one day. And with it, for example, when that is going to happen. Yeah. If we knew when our life expired, we would probably make different choices. But because we don't know this, we have to constantly deal with that insecurity. We constantly have to kind of shove that away. We constantly have to kind of deal with the uncertainty of, I could die technically every day. And when there are things in our outer reality, that are sort of shoving this into our face, all right, that we could truly die tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, we could always truly die tomorrow, but we have all these coping mechanisms that allow us to shove that away, to avoid that, to avoid the confrontation with that. Yeah, we just pretend it's going to happen in, like out there a long, long time from now. I don't need to worry about that. But when function of our ego to help us survive these kind of uncertainties, the confrontation with the unknown, is that we either go into avoiding any kind of pain, any kind of remembrance, any kind of reality that confronts us with it, so escapism, so to speak. Well, no, just ignoring it. Or we're doing something that can give us something like a diversion or distraction. Now, in the truest sense of it, it is the seeking pleasure and avoiding pain function of our ego. But we've reached a point now here where the seeking pleasure isn't quite working anymore. Can you feel that? So we have a problem now. We have to face the unknown. We always do, but now it's really aware to us, and the pleasure is kind of going away. Yeah, there are things that we can't do anymore, especially if we are unvaccinated. Okay, there's a lot of countries that are cutting down our ability to, let's say, socialize or engage in activities that we've come to love, that we have used for, seeking pleasure, such as going to the movie theater, going to a restaurant, or traveling. So even if we are vaccinated and if we are feeling like, okay, these pleasures are so important to me that I prioritize them, they're not really, if you're truly honest with yourself, going to prevent you from dying, okay, but maybe they can prolong the process. The only problem with this is now that these things are again being questioned, because in the context of mandates and sort of who counts as fully vaccinated and eligible for these pleasures and who doesn't is going to change, because data is clearly showing that having 2 jabs isn't really going to give you whatever it is that they initially said. Initially they said you would stop the pandemic. Now it's more like you're preventing hospitalization or early death, but it doesn't really do this, only for 4 to 6 months. So as the booster shots are now being recommended, you will see that these definitions will have to be reassessed. You may have been part of the crowd that counted as fully vaccinated in the last 6 months, and at some point you won't anymore. You will just be like an unvaccinated person, because if your vaccination card expires, then you are forced to go back and getting another shot to reinstate your vaccination, your pleasure status. Let's call the vaccination status your pleasure status. Your permission to enjoy life, your permission to do the things that motivate you, that allow you to make experiences, that allow you to express yourself, that allow you to grow through interaction with others. And you can hear this slight sarcasm in my voice here, that obviously something isn't adding up about this. We can all feel this within ourselves. And next week it's going to be very, very into our face, because some of these collective energies that are now more or less speeding up again. So we have continual intensity until the end of the year, guys. That is something that I have been trying to prepare you for all along. And I have realized this last week that no amount of preparation or predicting or forecasting can actually prepare us for what happens to our nervous system once we are confronted with it. If you are energetically sensitive or empathic, you will most likely have had situations here in these last days where you were just going about your normal day, or you're laying down trying to fall asleep, and all of a sudden you get hit with this super, super intense nervous system response. Your heartbeat suddenly starts to like grow out of your chest, yeah, and you get all these images and all these thought or thinking processes into your head that you weren't even aware of were there. Can you guys relate to that? Yes. That was the energy of last week. Next week, guys, you're going to have this not as strong as this past week, but if you look at my November transmission and energy wellness calendar, you will see that we pretty much go through this once a week now. And this will all sort of come to a huge big showdown toward Christmas time, yeah, between Christmas and New Year's. So I know that as I am sounding like a broken record, I cannot prepare you for this, but I need you to understand what it is that you are up against. Yes, and this came with a lot of physical sensations in this last week, the headache, the pain in the neck. Also for some here, this congestion in your sinus area, okay? I want you to understand that these physical organs and functions that are located in certain areas, that they are also linked to some of your energy centers in that area, yeah? So headache and sinus, ears, eyes, that's 5th and 6th chakra. That is your truth center, yeah, your center for expression and your ability to feel truth and your ability to see truth, to tap into that, to tap into this deeper inner connection that can inform you whether or not what you're seeing is real or not, true or not. You've heard me say this many times. Just because something is real doesn't mean it's true. Why is that? Because if your 5th and 6th chakra aren't really working well together, yeah, if there's blocks there, you will experience something like the elevated heartbeat or a bunch of nervous reactions that will give you the impression that you must be under stress right now, that you must have an anxiety attack or something like that, or a heart attack right now. Even though if you feel into this, you're like, no, wait, I'm not feeling this right now. This isn't reflecting where I'm truly at. So what you are beginning to sense more and more clearly now is these 4 king realities that I've talked about 2 weeks ago, these bifurcated realities that I'm talking about and predicting for 10 years. That is the illusion, guys. This is the perceptionary distortion that we are going through these outer collective energies. They pull us into our own psyche, into the forces of our own psyche, all right, that want to either ignore what's going on or to just avoid it, to just like go in some kind of la-la land or a pleasure land, yeah, and sort of evade, okay, the consequences of it being true. What most of us don't really know is that anything that isn't true from an energetic perspective has a self-destruct built in. In other words, to maintain, to sustain, to keep up something that isn't true requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of energy to be forced to stay that way, as opposed to everything that's true. Let's say the love between 2 people, if it so is true, or the beauty in nature. Those are truths that come with an innate power to sustain itself. I'm not talking about climate or environmental aspects. I'm talking about the intrinsic beauty in nature. I'm talking about the intrinsic beauty of being a human, of being able to feel empathy, to emit warmth to other people, to connect on a deeper level. Those are things that are always true, and they do not have to be forced. There is nothing there that we need to, let's say, pump into to make this happen. It's self-propelled, as opposed to everything that is not true. Everything that is not true needs a lot of force, to stay on that level of illusion. And this is the problem with our own psyche and the collective mass hypnosis that is going on right now. We call this gaslighting. Yeah, so any one of you who has had an experience with gaslighting or some kind of narcissistic abuse, you might recognize this. All these things that you have experienced in this sort of gaslighting situation with other people, be it through a boss or a partner, is what is happening now on a global collective scale. How do I know that? I don't need to prove this to you. I don't need to show you documents or anything. No. I can feel that. You can feel that. Because the main property of gaslighting is that it leads to you constantly questioning your own perception. Constantly having these nightmares and bad dreams. Constantly wondering if there's something wrong with you. Constantly questioning your own identity and what it is that you're feeling, because something isn't adding up. There's a sense in you. Interoception. That's a new word that psychology has created now. I love it. We've been calling this energetic sensitivity. Interoception. So you're going to see a lot of studies that will now prove that interoception is real, and that it can inform a person about truth, if something is true or not. Yes. And now that we've covered all the problems here that are there, I want to ask you, what do you think are times like this good for? What is the learning? What is this confrontation with untruth, as I always call this so diplomatically? What is that good for? What does that help us with? I'm not actually asking you right now. I mean, we have a long delay here on YouTube Live, but you can contemplate that question. When I talk about the spiritual reality of things, and I say, you know, we as humans need the confrontation with untruth in order to discover truth. Yeah, it's really that simple. Yes, and obviously, Linda, yeah, exactly. Then learn how to follow through on that. Learn how to embody that. Yeah. So we can bicker and moan and complain about all this. We can be scared. All that is natural and human, and that's okay. But it is not going to change anything. We will not be able to change the way we perceive our reality until we step into that inner perception piece. We have to change our perspective. There is so much gaslighting going on right now that you will not be able to see through this. There are facts and alternative facts, virtual realities, augmented realities, false realities, and whatnot. You will find just as many studies showing how important it is to get vaccinated as the opposite studies that show how it makes no difference. Okay? You will not be able to find through this jungle, because this is a deliberate sort of strategy, okay, to keep you in this state of cognitive dissonance. And cognitive dissonance is what disconnects you, is what separates you from that inner sense, guys. So your job right now is nothing else but feeling within. Interoception. You have to take care of what your own body, your own senses, yeah, not just your 5 senses, also your 6th and your 7th and your 8th sense. We've talked about this before. Yeah, skim through my YouTube channel here. There's a lot of explainer videos about these inner senses, and I have programs and courses, yeah, that train specifically that. And it was to my great joy that I read something today in a study, no less, that I want to recite for you as the energy tip for this next week. And I apologize for these outer distractions here. I don't know if you hear this. My neighbor just decided to leave blow. It is only by listening to the heart that we can take better care of our mind, body, and emotion. This was in a scientific study conducted by the University of Oxford in collaboration, I think, with the Los Angeles University. I can cite this in the description here. Through listening to our heart, something that we just practiced here in the energy prayer. If you are watching a recording of these energy tips, go to my YouTube channel. There are playlists, and one is energy prayer, where we basically just demonstrated that, if you weren't here just right now. It is only by listening to your heart that you can make these decisions, that what is right and true for you. And heart is not the same as emotion, guys. Remember that. When that is said, listening to your heart, what is really meant is a certain level of coherence between your autonomous nervous system, yeah, and your conscious awareness. And that's why mindfulness always begins with, breathing, observing your own breathing, because as this is your autonomous nervous system that allows you to breathe. So as you focus on your breath, you become aware of your breath, all right? A second later, you forget again that you're breathing. But in that moment where you step into that connection between sort of the automatic you, the autopilot you, and the conscious you, a new reality opens up. And that is then the fundamental basics for manifesting a life in love and truth. And at a point where I can where all I can say is, without those, you're just going to get swept away, guys. You're not going to be able to withstand this level of untruth that is hitting us right now. It's vital. Heart connection and deeper connection is vital now. I said last week, without spiritual contextualization, you cannot make sense of this. You will not be able to create any kind of framework that makes sense. It will drive you nuts. So, obviously my tip for you here for this next week, while this next week can come with really beautiful sort of, I want to say, circumstances that allow you to tune deeper in to yourself, yeah, it will still be quite controversial, and there will be a lot of things that are coming in from the outside now, guys. I've been saying this over and over again. That will add to the confusion, that will add to the cognitive dissonances, and your job now is to consciously read through this. You cannot allow that. You cannot allow yourself to get pulled into constantly questioning your own perception. You need to take charge of it, and you need to move into self-mastery. Those are the only ways how you can get through this, guys. Everything else is checking out. And when you check out, you go on autopilot. And when you go on autopilot, that means you can be remote controlled. As simple as that. I hope that my words are not too serious for you, but there is no way, all right, to contextualize what is going on and to empower people to step into more courage, more hope, and more connection than through speaking truth. And that is who I am. That is what I am offering. You don't have to agree with me, but you will find truth here. So if you have these moments where you really get distraught by your nervous system responses, or by news that you are reading, or by energies that other people are putting out, I know for sure that this channel, my website, everything that I do, that I offer, is geared to helping you with that. There are many others who do that as well, but I cannot speak for them. In truth, I can only speak for what I can offer to you. And these are these words here in these live streams that I do, and the videos and articles, programs, courses, and of course personal coaching sessions that I do for a living. With that, I would like to close the energy tips for this next week. Yeah, heavy words, but appropriate for these times. Love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you again next Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Florida time, for our energy prayer with energy talk and discussion. Love you.